Hey everybody, welcome to the Forest School Podcast. This podcast is all about exploring the fascinating world of forest school education and sharing our evolving perspectives on this ever-changing field. We want to take a moment at the beginning of this episode to thank you, our dedicated listeners, for joining us. But before we dive into this episode, we'd like to address something important. If you're just joining us, or if you've been with us since the beginning, you may have noticed that some of our earlier episodes sound a bit different. The Forest School Podcast began as our own personal journey through the world of education, and those early episodes reflect a time when we were still learning the ropes. While we're proud of our growth and progress through the years, it's essential to acknowledge that those early episodes may not meet the technical and content quality standards of our more recent episodes. Education is a field that's constantly evolving, and so are our views and insights. Our early episodes served as a public diary of our learning journey, complete with all the mistakes and learning experiences that came with it. We believe that it's essential to keep these episodes available for posterity as they remind us how far we've come. However, if you're here for the most up-to-date discussions on education and our best quality recordings, we'd encourage you to explore our more recent episodes. Our views have evolved, our production quality's improved, and we're excited to share our current perspectives and knowledge with you. So, whether you're here to trace our journey from the beginning, or you're seeking the latest insights into education, we're thrilled to have you along for the ride. Thank you very much for being part of the Forest School community. Let's embark on this journey together. Nominally the number 3 of our favourite plants and kind of flora, I guess, to be involved in forest school in different ways. And we were just going to try and work out how we were going to do it, and I've turned the recorder on because I've, in my head, divvied it up into 3 groups. So I've gone, this one I like for cooking, this one I like for crafts, and I've got one that I like for just ethos and vibe.
Love it.
So, can I start with my vibe one? Because that's the strongest one. So, the one that I would have been, when we bought this site, I think I would have been unbelievably disappointed if we didn't have any oak. Because there's something... Oak is actually incredibly, for our purposes, useless. We don't really burn it. It doesn't, it grows so slowly that we don't cut and work with it.
None of our oak is old enough to have acorns.
None of our oak's old enough to have acorns. But there is something about saying... this is an oak, and touching an oak, and I wonder whether it might be that we've just had the World Cup and I'm feeling very full of national pride, but I think there is something in the British thing that is like oak, hard oak and slow grown, and as well it's got such a distinctive shape, the leaves. You look at an oak tree an oak leaf silhouette, and it's that, there's nothing quite like an oak tree. Acorns are very distinctive, aren't they, as a thing to find in the woods. And
they support the greatest number of species of any British tree. So I was just trying to remember if it's like 600 species an oak tree supports.
Wow.
In various ways. So to do with like the crevices in the bark, the acorns that it produces. So everyone thinks that just acorns kind of feed squirrels, but actually they feed jays and loads of different animals.
Well, there's
nice.
An interesting thing. Embercombe in Dartmoor, and they had a circle of oak trees grow around. They put some stones out in a circle. Have I told you this story before?
Have,
yeah. And then after a few years of having these big stone circles, an oak tree circle started to grow around it. Lots and lots of different oaks. And they couldn't work out how it was because, it was, I think it was like 200 or 300 metres to the nearest oak tree and all this stuff. And they were like, well, how are they getting there? Were they under the ground already? What was it? And they worked out that, I think it was crows. I can't remember what type of bird it was.
It probably was jays.
Maybe jays, but had learnt to take the acorns, fly over this stone circle and drop them so that they cracked open. And of course, some of them missed and landed, and then you get this circle of oak trees. It's amazing kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do support a big.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's something. We haven't really talked about the kind of like otherworldly ideas of forest school that because people put it into a greater or lesser extent. You know, the gnomes in the woods, the spirits of the trees, or something. But there is, for me at least,
behind it.
There's so much English mythology around oak trees, and the Green Man is often mostly made up of oak leaves. But there's just something about being near an oak tree. And I think maybe I quite like looking at acorns and thinking about there's just so much raw power in an acorn that you go, this could grow for 800 years or something.
Yeah.
You know, that this acorn, this could grow. And it's so, you know, a pine tree, I can look at it and go, 30 years, okay, I'm nearly 30, right, I can get that kind of time frame. And, you know, beech grows a bit quick, you know, a bit slower than pine, but I can still understand roughly how it is. But an acorn is so beyond the concept of one human lifespan that I'm almost like sentinels. You know, they watch over long periods of time. And I don't know, there's a weird thing about trees, I think, thinking that those trees have been witness to so many people, and you are just a blip to them.
Yeah.
Do we do one and one? Do you want to pick one of your favourites?
Sure. So one of my favourites, my favourite tree for forest school, which is very useful, is elder. So elder,
it's got a witch in it.
It's got a witch in it. So talking about the mythology. So it's the witch's tree, and it's interesting. I've been kind of hearing quite a lot about the mythology about elder recently, and we went on that.
We did. We went on Southwest Meetup, didn't we?
And there was a lady there talking about the elder, and we were talking about how, on the one hand, it has quite negative mythological connotations about it being the witch's tree, and if a witch inhabits a tree, then she'll choose the elder and it'll come to life, and she will be chasing you or running around your house inside the elder tree, which is obviously really scary and negative. But on the flip side, it provides so much for a person, especially in times gone by, that you think, why does it have
I
this
wonder if
negative
it's just one of the...
And I was wondering, go on, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I wonder if it's one of those things that we have to embed into a society to protect it. You know, culturally, subconsciously, we all understand we have to protect this tree because it gives us so much, that we then go, right, well, how do we keep the kids from cutting it down, doing whatever? Well, okay, let's make it a scary thing then. Because...
I guess you either go scary or sacred, don't you? I wonder whether the witch thing has come with Christianity, that pre-Christianity it was purely a sacred tree, that you didn't burn elder, because if you burn elder, you've got then no elder that produces berries, which give you a really essential flu remedy and cold remedy in the winter. And so, you just save that, you don't use that as firewood. And then Christianity comes along and looks at the kind of pagan ways of living and goes, they're worshipping this tree quite a lot, let's make that evil. So with the yew tree, which is again a sacred tree, they reclaimed that and said this is a very Christian tree, because if you cut a yew tree, the sap bleeds red like Christ. So this is our Christian tree, and they built their churches near yew trees, and yew trees had been the worship place of pagan societies, so they whack the church next to the yew tree and go,
you just lay it on top, don't you?
Yeah, just still come to the same place.
Still come to your tree, we just put a hut next to it.
Yeah, so I wondered whether, because they couldn't claim it the way they claimed the yew tree, whether that was the flip side of that. It's like, don't worship that anymore because it's the witch's tree, and be scared of it.
I mean, could so easily have been flipped though, couldn't it? A tree that bleeds could be one of the scariest things in the world.
I guess they wanted to keep the worship place the same. So that was easy to... You don't want your church next to like an evil tree, do you? Or maybe it's just so embedded.
Well, I wonder because a yew tree doesn't provide anything necessarily medicinal.
No.
Whereas if you have a society where you would like the sick to come to your church for aid, whether it's counterintuitive to have a tree that a pagan tree that actually heals them, and you go, right, well, we've got to demonise this tree because everybody's going to this tree that actually has some medicinal properties. What we want them to do is to come to church and to pray and to be healed by our Lord and Saviour.
Yeah, maybe. But so we've been making elderflower fritters this spring, which have been like the most delicious thing you can make on a campfire ever, and it's been a really good year for elderflower, so that's been really good. And obviously craft wise, because elder is hollow, well, it can be made hollow by pushing out the pith, usually with a tent peg we do, really easily. Then that gives you a hollow tube that then you can use for loads of craft, so beads, elder whistles we've had a fun play at, haven't we? There was that really very cold session. Do you remember that really cold session where we had lots of
the adults,
grown-ups, all really persevering making elder whistles? It was really fun.
I would like to find something to do with elder. So I feel like you're right. Thick elder that you can push the pith out of is very useful, and we make lots of things out of that. And the tips where the flowers are, and the berries, and we make lots of stuff out of that. And there's bits in between, aren't they? That aren't quite. They're not big enough to make whistles or anything out of, and they're too small to make.
Yeah, but you've got to leave those so that you can make the whistles.
No, I understand that. But to cut the whistle part.
Okay.
You have to waste, everything
Discard
past that. So I would like to, and maybe people listening to this know, you can do this with it, or maybe we need to start making a little elder shrine out of those bits and give them back somehow.
Yeah. And it'll be good for berries this year as well. You can see, obviously, because the blossom was so good, there's loads of berries.
Well, that's because we've had no rain and just all the sun.
Really nice cordial out of them to keep for the winter. I've got a really nice book, I'll just say in case anybody's interested in it, called The Hedgerow Handbook by Adele Nozadar, and she gives recipes for the cold and flu syrup and things like that. If anyone's interested, it's good.
Well, I wonder then if I can segue neatly into another cooking one, because I would like to say nettles, I think, are well, I think they're unbelievably important for forest school, because they're one of the first things that you can change children's perceptions of. And that's such a powerful thing that forest school does, is to go from like kids walk around and everything that touches them is a I'm using air quotes, a stinging nettle. And you go, no, that's a bramble. No, that's actually just a holly leaf. Everything is like, it's stinging me. And actually, what you start to go, well, watch, let's pick these. You can eat them. They're amazing. And you put them in pancakes or fritters, or you make nettle tea, or all those things. You can really quickly go from like, sometimes we've said once you start learning about a plant, you start to see it everywhere. It stops becoming just a bland green hedgerow, and it starts to be, oh look, there's dogwood there, and there's nettle there, and there's jack by the hedge there, and that's I think a really nice thing to pass on to the kids and go, okay, this isn't just a patch of nettles, you avoid it, do whatever. Start to look at it as, oh, you could eat something there, you could cook something from that, all those kind of things. What else? I'm trying to think what else we've done with nettles.
We haven't yet done natural cordage, but I really want to.
That's true. So you need to dry it out, and I don't necessarily have the patience and forethought. Maybe next year, I think I will.
Well, now might be. I'm up for trying it now, because they're nice and tall now.
That's
so
true.
when they're long, you have to hit them with a stick for quite a long time, which I think some kids might quite enjoy.
I think that's the thing sometimes with forest school projects, isn't it? Is like, particularly bushcrafty things are multi-day or you have to bash them all with sticks, but then you have to leave them to dry. And either you've got to find a space to that, but you've also got to bank on the kids, or not necessarily bank on the kids, but you've got to know, okay, you might be interested in this next week and doing the next step. Rather than some projects you go, oh, we're going to get the nettles and bash them, and they do that, and then the next week they go, no, we're all pirates this week, and you're like, but the nettles, and if we don't do it, and then it goes, and so I guess
that's why sometimes it's good if there's more than one of you leading the session, so that you can, because a lot of the children are going to be interested in the end results. Often when we do cooking, isn't it, that lots of kids will go, I don't want to help you cook, but I'm definitely going to help you eat them. And it's like, well, actually, that's kind of fair enough. Some kids are into cooking, and so some children might not be into making the cordage, but they would be amazed at the end result, and so it's still kind of worth doing in that way. So another one I would add, purely for cooking, is wild garlic. And we don't have any here, sadly.
There's a more common
ramsons. And do you
Ramsons.
know my fun fact about the word ramsons?
Go on.
It's an old word, and any English place name that's got ram in it, like Ramsgate, Ramsbottom, all this place, Ramsey Hill, is because that place had loads of ramsons.
Is that right?
And it's an indicator of ancient woodland. So if you know, so the wild garlic that you would eat, its ancestors could be 1,000 years old. So
Is it?
means
It's a perennial plant, isn't it?
Yeah.
So potentially that plant,
Yeah.
that could be a 1,000-year-old plant.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't know what its lifespan is, but it grows in the same place and is only found in ancient woodland. So you can't just plant wild garlic and expect it to grow.
No,
the conditions have got to be right, and it's grown there for a long time. So yeah, isn't that amazing that the place was named after?
Wow.
So people have been gathering that for thousands of years and named the place after it. Yeah. So yeah,
it's amazing to me that presumably then garlic came we had garlic as a bulb, and then. Because you would think that the foraged version would be the original, and then we would have a. Do you know what I mean? It's odd that we've named the foraged version after the domestic version.
I don't know whether I reckon the foraged version is probably older.
But that's what I mean. So that's why I wonder, why is it called garlic? Is why wild garlic and it's not called domestic ramsons? You know, why is a bulb of garlic not called a domestic ramson?
I don't know.
A ramson bulb.
Yeah.
But I wonder if maybe then maybe it was ramsons and garlic.
Yeah.
And then people stopped foraging, and with the re-emergence of foraging, people have been like, well, what does it taste like? Garlic. Okay, so let's go to. So it's almost done a trying, probably a 1-2 pass of names.
Yeah.
It is in. I think wild garlic is something that it sits on your breath and on your tongue. It's oilier, I think, than garlic, and you find some kids and parents almost could have a bath in it. You know, I mean, they just cannot get enough of it. You know, I have said before, if I can't feel the garlic bread burning me, then it's not strong enough. And some people are like, whoa, you know, they can smell it in a sealed bag, and they're like, oh my word, that is too strong for me.
Another common name for it apparently is stinking nanny.
Stinking nanny.
You go down the woods, right? Go through the stinking nanny.
Go through the stinking nanny.
That's where you go. So some people don't like the smell, I don't think.
But it is nice, isn't it, to have, because I wouldn't say that every forest school does do foraging or cooking, because actually I try and impress on the kids almost, I would say, too much, that like, I don't know much about foraging. It's not my skill, you know. And I think that's one of the things that, as a forest school leader, you have to be open about, and saying, do you know what? Actually, I'm a forest school leader, and I'm really good at knots. Or actually, I'm a forest school leader that's really good at den building and games, but I'm not so strong on foraging and cooking.
And also, you can say, I'm not that strong yet, you know. That's
absolutely.
That's part of the beauty of this job,
and so that's why we have books, because it goes to the kids, I'm not sure. You know,
your learning never ends, does it? And definitely, just in the last 2 years, my knowledge of trees and stuff is just, absolutely.
Well, I heard someone once talking in regards to play work, and saying that your role should be as a co-discoverer. So even if you do already know that thing, your job is to discover it with the child. And actually it leads me to foraging in general. I'm just going to slightly waffle about how we talk with children. So there's, I think it's there's a type of questioning that's either from like Aristotle or Plato. You know, where you just go like, is it? Well, why is it? You know, you just repeat everything they're saying as questions. But there's one that it's on the same lines as that I actually really like, where if a kid says, is this a stinging nettle? Then there's, I guess, 3 levels. You can go, yes, no, you can give them you can just give them a factual answer. You can say, what do you think? But actually that kind of puts so much burden on them. Or what I've liked is the third way is kind of verbalizing your own thoughts about it that you don't necessarily know you're doing. So you go like, if I thought it was a stinging nettle, I would be looking for leaves about this shape. Or, you know, so you're telling them what you are assessing in your head. And it's a really hard skill to do, because we do just look at it and go, it's a stinging nettle. Of course it's a stinging nettle, because it's a stinging nettle. So trying to break it down and like, you know, oh, is this a rabbit hole? And you go, well, if it was a rabbit hole, I would look for it to be about 12 to 15 centimetres across. And they can go, yeah, it is that. You go, right. And if it was an active one, I'd imagine there'd be leaves scraping out. You can maybe see all these. You know the answers already, but...
But you're teaching them how to do it for themselves next time without being really supercilious about it, and, you know... Yeah.
And it also comes off, I think, doing the whole, like, what do you think, can sometimes come across as smug.
Yeah.
Because they know you know.
Yeah.
And you're just being...
And they probably don't know.
A bit of an arse about
That's
it.
why they're asking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you going, what do you think? They'll go, well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really nice.
It's a nice way of doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go broad with my last one.
Yeah.
Because it's actually not something that we have in our forest,
Yeah.
but it is something we use quite a lot. And I'm going to use the generic term wildflowers because I love seeing them come out in hapazomi. That's one of my favourite things. Is really bright purples and yellows.
In case you don't know what hapazomi is, that's where you take petals or leaves or anything that's growing and preferably quite fresh.
Yeah, it's got to have a liquid
It's
inside.
got to have pigment. Yeah. And so young tree leaves work, but older ones don't, for example. And you put it underneath some fabric, so calico or cotton, and bash it with a stone or a hammer
on a flat surface.
So that the pigment
it's like
penetrates.
very fast leaf pressing.
Yeah. And
very,
it makes
very
really
fast.
Pretty.
And it doesn't require much skill on the part of the kids. They can just hammer and hammer and hammer.
Yeah.
But so wildflowers I like because your eyes get used to being in certain environments, and green is possibly my favourite colour.
It's lucky.
But yeah, I know. But we are so inundated with green, and it's it takes that little flash of colour, it just pops out, and I don't know, something to me it really, or even just we've got coloured ribbons around the mud kitchen at the moment, and just those little splashes are a massive kind of but you don't want too many. You could put loads in. Yeah, so that's, wildflowers. But do you want to do it? So I guess one last one?
Yep, I like birch, and I feel like I would like to play around with birch a bit more. But tapping it, we've tapped some birch trees in spring.
Controversial. You're going to get some hate mail now.
Really? Well, we did it with...
We've done it. Let's put cards on the table. We've tapped some birch.
We did it with stainless steel straws, didn't we? And we didn't do it for very long. We just did it with some toddlers to show them how to, to show it to them and have a little taste. And we probably left it going for about an hour, no more than that. So we only collected like half a cup full, didn't we?
I think there are some people that say any tapping is
cruel.
Well, that it damages the tree in a way that you can't say, oh, you do it this way and it doesn't. I know there's a lot of, I don't know what his method is, but I know there's a lot of people, apparently Ray Mears put something out that was like, this is the way and this doesn't damage the tree at all. Okay. And has got quite a lot of backlash from people saying, it really does.
Right,
like, yeah.
Well, yeah, we've done it, and it tastes like water, so it's not like, wow, that's amazing. And then we did sycamore, didn't we? Which is much sweeter and more flavoursome. But it was very interesting that we tapped trees in different parts of the woods, and the ones that had more sunlight were tastier sap. We thought
earlier. So we did quite early in the season. So it may well be that now it's too late now, but if we had waited, that the other trees might have had more. That sycamore tip I got from David Slater. He's the forest school teacher on YouTube. He's got some good tips, and he's got some good stuff going on. There's quite a lot of there's mythology, not name. You said before there's a name for the birch tree. Isn't it the mother of the... Is it oak the father?
That's beech. No, beech.
Oh, beech.
Which is your confusion, isn't it? Birch and beech.
Oh,
but the bark, obviously for fire lighting, is really good. So we've had to play around with that before, haven't we? Not with great success, but dried bits of the bark. For whittling, you cut me a nice bit of birch.
I'm
just whittling a bit of that at the moment for a spoon, and it's really nice to work with.
Well, again, and it's another one that's very easy to learn and identify, because compared to a brown and green woodland, the silvery white bark stands out quite prominentely, and it's kind of like the kids can then name that.
Yep. You can make tea with the leaves, which I've done before. It's nice.
Yeah. Ideal. Nice. Magic. Okay, I think we'll leave that one there.
Yep.
Magic. All right.
See you.
See you guys. Bye.